It's time for an early August garden tour. Despite the horrible heat we've had all summer, the vegetables have been doing really well.
Hi, I'm Kim, and this is Olive City Oasis. I'm in Northern California, Zone 9B, and it certainly is hot, dry, and smoky here right now. But we're making the best of it. That's what we do as gardeners, right? We downplay the negatives and upplay the positives. Focus on what's going well each season. That's what I try to do anyway, in my garden, in my orchard, and in life. It seems to work better that way for me. So let's get into the August garden tour.
So looking west up the slope toward the chicken coop and the back fence, I have a garden growing. It looks great considering it's August. Usually so many plants have burned up by now. I think part of the reason I've had better success with the plants is I started them successively, so they're not all going strong for May. And also I have over the years very purposefully planted trees and large shrubs at critical points throughout the garden to provide some shade in the late afternoon. Here in this first bed on the left, I have zucchini growing, and I've been harvesting off of it regularly. Probably have more in there. Let's see. Oh, yep, there's one right there. We've had major problems with squirrels taking the zucchini plants before they ever got close to fruiting the last few years. But I put several different protocol into place last year, and either they worked in combination greatly or it was just a cyclical thing and the squirrels decided to move on for some reason. But I haven't seen any squirrels this year. Maybe the rabbits chased them away, because I have seen a lot of rabbits. Fortunately, they haven't come back here. They've only been down in my fruit orchard. So this here, growing up, this little trellis I put in recently, is a long red noodle bean. Yep, a Chinese long red noodle bean. They are probably my very favorite bean of all time. So I've got them growing on either side of these trellises, and hopefully they will be making their way up and over just in time for a bountiful fall harvest. And the squash right here on this side is delicata. I think it's just starting to fruit. Let's see if I see any starting in here. Yeah. Well, it doesn't look much like a delicata. We'll see. Sometimes these things hybridize when you save seeds. However, I do have quite a few delicata back here in this bed. Yeah, because I planted this a long time ago, and it is producing like crazy. There's lots and lots of little delicata on it. Yeah, they're just everywhere. But there are some big ones on it, and we're going to get in there and get a couple of those. You can see them when they get big, usually. The leaves aren't too bad. And there's one there. And let's see. There's one back in there, too. Oh, see? Right back in there. There's one. I love delicata. What's interesting is that I never knew delicata existed until about 5 years ago. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Better late than never, anyway. Over here, I have a new to me squash growing. These are Long Island cheese squash. There, you see those speckled leaves? That is my Moon and Stars watermelon. The resulting fruit will also be speckled. Now, last year I grew only Moon and Stars watermelon in this bed, and I harvested so many. I can't even remember the final number because it was just so many. This year I planted a variety of squashes, and on the end, on a trellis, some cucumbers. Now, I have to tell you, I wasn't even going to grow cucumber this year because my kids just don't eat it. And, well, I like it, but not that much. But as you can see, I did grow it. My daughter requested it. She told me, I love cucumber sandwiches. So I said, okay, I'll plant you a cucumber plant. But this is what happens. They grow so fast. And if I don't get them off immediately, I think there's another one in here. They get huge. Where is it? Oh my gosh, you guys, that's got to be the biggest one I've ever seen. I don't know if you can tell, but when I get that out, yeah, you're going to be amazed. I know I will be. I already am. And, you know, it's fine that I get these huge ones that I overlook too, because what I do with them is I split them open and I give them to my chickens, and my chickens are very, very grateful. So next to the squash and cucumber bed, I did plant a bunch of watermelon right here. This is actually just 2 plants. And after last year, I realized I really don't need 8 plants. 3 or 4 is enough, so that's what I've got going this year. I might plant a few more in a week or two if any of the squash plants die out, but they don't seem like they're anywhere near stopping productivity. In the middle, I have some brand newly planted pepper plants, and we'll see how they do. Now that coming up there, and I saw another one right here. Those are buckwheat. I planted buckwheat in this bed a few years ago, and yeah, there's still seeds in there. I should pull those out because those things, their trunks get like a tree. Anyway, so I've got these peppers coming up. We'll see how they do, but I planted them because, well, my peppers that I planted way back in, March and April, they didn't come to anything for some reason, so I replanted in May. They didn't come to anything, well, except for a couple, but most of them didn't. So I'm trying again. 3rd time's the charm, right? Hey, how do you like my little name sign? Yeah, question mark. I have no idea what that is. And here, what do I have here? Oh, this is a melon. It's my version of cantaloupe. It's called Emerald Gem Melon, and it's doing very well here. It is fruiting nicely. I actually have another bed with melons in it right over here. So this bed also has melon. I started these later, but they also are doing really well. They enjoy a little bit of shade from this this container. Can't think of the word, container. And these are butternuts. I have several butternut plants planted in different places around the garden. And, they're all looking pretty healthy, but I don't have any fruit on them yet. They're kind of slow to get going, butternuts, compared to all the other squashes. This is what I've discovered in my area anyway. Obviously, also growing in this bed are green onions and purple coneflower and a bunch of Mexican poppies that I haven't yet had the heart to pull out. So next to the melons and purple coneflowers and poppies, I have my tomatillo bed. More society garlic there, but mostly tomatillos. Now these are 2 green tomatillos that I planted, and they are very sturdy looking, starting to blossom. Now I planted all of these tomatillos very late. In fact, I have a video on transplanting these tomatillos in here, and they all are starting to produce now, and that's making me very happy. Just look at them. They're so healthy looking. They do much better than cherry tomatoes, let alone regular tomatoes. So if you enjoy making salsa and pico de gallo, then I highly suggest growing tomatillos. First of all, they provide a flavor to salsa that nothing else can. And secondly, they're so easy to grow, so resilient, and so prolific. Now in this bed in the middle, let's see if I can show you, in a container in the middle, I have, do you recognize those leaves and those crimson stems? I have more red roselle hibiscus coming up. That's what I have there. And you know what that is right there? That's a cherry tomato plant, but not just any cherry tomato plant. Do you see that stem? This is last year's cherry tomato plant. And back in June, I harvested a ton of great cherry tomatoes off of it, and then I cut it all the way down. and it shot up new growth. So this plant is 2 years old. Isn't that cool? We'll see if it can produce some more for me by fall. This bed here is an example of my peppers not doing so great. So these peppers actually were part of the second round, the only ones that survived. So they went into this bed, transplanted here in probably the end of June. So it's been like 6 weeks. And they're not doing anything. Like, they've bushed out, but they're not doing anything. And these are a bunch of hot peppers, like Trinidad Scorpion, Ghost Pepper. Yeah, the society garlic looks and smells great. Well, the flowers do. I need to trim up all the leaves. But the peppers, they're like little green bushes. Oh yeah, you look nice. Where's the peppers? And this is a Hubbard squash. This here is a Kakai pumpkin. And I'll tell you what, first year I've grown Kakai pumpkin, they're the ones that give you the green seeds that are hull-less, so they're great for roasting and munching. And I am excited about it because they have done very, very well here. They like this environment. They like the heat. I have so many growing right now. So over here past all the squashes and melons and the baby peppers, I have Kakai pumpkin. And, you know, it's doing really well here along the Olive Orchard Chicken Run fence. And yeah, there are pumpkins in here. There's one. Oh, can you see that? Ow, these things are prickly. There's another one. They're really throughout here. Let's see if I can find another one. Oh, there's a really big one. You probably can't tell size dimensions on here, but that's at least 9 inches across, at least. And is there more? Yep, there's a big one back in here. See, so I'm gonna have so many pumpkin. So I'll get the seeds for snacking, but I'll get the flesh to make pumpkin pie and my favorite, pumpkin muffins. So yeah, looking great. This pumpkin, definitely growing it again. It grew fast, it grew easy, and it's prolific. Now along the fence line, trying its best to come up from behind the pumpkins, I've got 2 things going on. I planted some late Chinese long red noodle beans to climb the fence since the squirrels aren't around to bother them for whatever reason. And then right in front of them, I have some red Roselle hibiscus. You can see their distinctive leaves. Now, last year and the year before, I grew red Roselle hibiscus in one bed. Love red Roselle hibiscus. Makes the most amazing tea, of course, but also jam. Oh my God, the jam is so good. This year, though, I planted red Roselle hibiscus late, and I planted it all over, scattered everywhere. So I've got 3 red Roselles in each of these crates, and they're doing fantastic. I'm loving how they grow in containers. Have to water them far less. They're far sturdier in the wind. Yeah. But I did, like I said, plant them behind things because as these pumpkin leaves die back, which they will, as the beans peter out, which they will if they ever get going, these red Roselle will keep going and going because they are definitely a fall crop. That's when they thrive in the fall. Down here, you can see the remnants of my bearded iris, which I am going to divide this fall because they grew spread so much this year. I think I'm just going to put them, I don't know. I was going to put them along the fence line all the way the length of the whole bed. The problem with that is I'd be depriving myself of the fence line for things like beans and cucumbers, things that want to vine up the fence. So I may not put them there after all. Anyway, in front of them, I have some more of my little baby pepper transplants. And then here's one from the second pepper series I started that actually, grew a little. And it is the first one that I am seeing actual peppers develop on. It's been a crazy pepper year. Usually my peppers, I have more than I know what to do with. I make tons and tons of salsa with them. I am going to probably have to visit the farmer's market to get peppers this year to make my salsa. No shame in that. I like supporting the farmer's market. And you can't have, well, I guess you could, but I've never had a garden year where absolutely everything did fabulous. There's always something that for whatever reason doesn't do so hot. And this year for me, that's peppers. Now all these little plants coming up next to it,
It's kind of funny. Those are all calendula, I know, because I had a bunch of calendula plants in here. What's funny about it is I have tried to do that before. I've tried to purposely spread calendula, leaving the flowers and the seeds, you know, in the soil, and they haven't come up. This year, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to leave them in here because they don't come up anyway, so I didn't. And yet, obviously, some got left in, and they have definitely come up, so that's kind of cool. I'll have to thin them out. I've moved a mulberry tree here to provide a little shade for these transplanted peppers, and that's doing really well. Same with this little tree here. It's providing a little afternoon shade to these peppers. It doesn't take a big tree, by the way, to do that job for you. Now here next to the squash bed, where I have the Chinese beans trying to grow up the trellis, well, they're succeeding right there, so I do think it's going to work eventually. I have my little herb garden. Even though I grow herbs all over the property, this one area I like to call the herb garden because originally it was one of the very first beds I ever put in, and it's where I first planted my first herbs. Here I have the lemon verbena, which I'm telling you guys, this has been cut back 3 times since March. Its initial cutback, a second cutback, and then about a month ago, I cut it back again, and it was all bare stick with no greenery on it except a little tiny bit of greenery at the bottom on a few branches. But all these upper branches were bare stick. A month later, look how much it has filled out. Already shooting off long branches to the left. It also shoots them toward the chicken orchard run, and it was blocking my door, which is why I cut it back originally. Also, it was starting to block my walkway here. But boy, does it smell wonderful. I always proclaim that this is the best smelling plant you could grow in your garden, even better than like lavender and citrus, and that is, in my opinion, very, very true. And makes an absolute wonderful tea on its own, but is a fantastic ingredient to use in combination with other herbs. I really like it with oregano, and I really like it with blackberry leaves. It's just a fantastic addition to a lot of herbal teas. In this container, I have one of my few pepper plants that actually is doing well. And yeah, I had said the other one was the first to produce, but I forgot about these. I have 2, I think. I think there's just 2 of them, of my red snacking peppers. And then this here is a mystery plant. I don't know what it is. I talked about it in my last video, in my first vlog ever, where I went and showed you a trestle bridge with a train crossing, and we went to Six Flags and loved going in that butterfly sanctuary. But at the beginning of that video, I showed this plant, plus I have another one. The other one's even more interesting because it has way more flowers, but also the flowers are different colors. Some are yellow, some are red, and some are two-tone. And I don't know what this plant is. My dad gave me the seeds, and he didn't know what it was. Anybody know? Now behind the container, next to the lemon verbena, I've got some sage and some red vein sorrel that's looking a little worse for wear. I harvested a ton of it. It was great. But now it's looking a little scrawny and something's munching on it a bit. I'll trim it up and it will come back stronger than ever. Not sure if the marjoram's gonna do that. It's been here a year and it, I don't know, it doesn't seem to like it here. I might transplant it somewhere where it gets a little more sun. Hi, ladies. What you doing? Some more sage there and some green sorrel. This is a new transplant last spring, so I'm really pleased with how it's looking. It was pretty scrawny at the beginning of this year, but it's filled out nicely, and I am regularly, every single night, I'm taking leaves off of these green sorrel plants. I've got another one here and another one down the line to give to the chickens because it's absolutely their favorite snack. My yarrow coming back nicely. Look at those pretty pink flowers. Did a video recently on yarrow and all its wonderful medicinal benefits and how to harvest it, and I told you in that video that this stuff just comes back and comes back. And yeah, I need to finish harvesting on this plant over here. I
took all the flowers off and got those harvested, but I didn't come back and get the stalks. So I need to do that. Summer savory going to bloom. That's really good in the winter. I let it flower in the summer because the bees like it, and then I'll cut it back. And fresh growth in the winter is fabulous in stir fry and especially stews. There's my other green sorrel plant and my lavender that I love the blossoms on. I definitely need to prune this back. Yep. Don't I, Missy? Yeah. I definitely need to. They want this. They're like, green sorrel? Give us some green sorrel. We love green sorrel. Yeah, I can tell because you munch on it through the fence. If I don't keep these back leaves pruned, they just get their little beaks in there, which is fine with me. I mean, probably 80% of the reason I grow sorrel, if not more, is for my chickens. The chickens make out really well from the garden. Year round, they get purple tree kale, dinosaur kale, and green sorrel for their greens, all of which they absolutely love. They get any cherry tomatoes that are, going soft because my kids haven't come out and harvested them. I say my kids like they're 8, but they're actually all adults. And a few of them will live with me and work and save money. And it's working great for us. But they just don't like the garden or even come out and harvest much. St. John's wort is going to rebloom. I already harvested a whole bunch earlier, but I've got one bloom on it now and a bunch new growth with new blossoms about to come out. St. John's wort, very valuable herb to have on hand. So next to these delicata and the climbing Chinese red noodle beans, I have this bed, which is, it has one very tall cherry tomato growing, staked up so that it can act like a tree and shade the bed, which it's doing marvelously. And at its base, I have some melon, lots of Emerald Gem melon. Oh, there's a few growing in there even now. They are the perfect size. They're like a small, medium cantaloupe size. Perfect personal eating, and they are delicious. And then mixed in with all the melon, you can see coming up through the melon. Recognize this plant? It's so gorgeous, isn't it? I love the stems, these crimson stems, and the leaves, the dark green and the shape. But most gorgeous of all is when they start blossoming in the fall. Yeah, this is lots of red roselle hibiscus coming up through the melon. Oh, there's another melon down there. And then at the end, I have another little trellis, and I have cucumber. More Armenian cucumber growing up. Yeah, I'm not very good at getting things through these trellises, but they usually figure it out for themselves. So yeah, we'll have plenty for them. What is that thing, you ask? It's an old artichoke stalk. The artichokes, I cut them back many times. They're still going to come up in here. See? Artichoke coming up. Guarantee you, they'll be back strong as ever next year. Hello, Mr. Owl. Are you doing your job keeping away the varmints? And just past that cucumber trellis is another cucumber trellis here at the end of this bed. And behind that are a bunch of cherry tomatoes. Now, they did great. I harvested a ton. And then they look like we're going to die now. It's 120, which it was for several weeks in July. It was between 112 and 118. A few days it hit 120. But they got through that period, and now they've sent out lots of fresh new green growth and green tomatoes. So I need to come back in here and prune off all the dead stuff, because there is a lot of dead stuff down beneath. And any tomatoes that are nice and firm, I will harvest for salsa. And any that are soft, like these, or, whatever, gone over, I will give to the chickens. But yeah, this method of stringing them up has worked. What I realized though is I need more tall stakes like these rather than short stakes, because once they hit the top, they just, bend over. But I am super happy with all the fresh growth. This means I'm going to have plenty of cherry tomatoes in the fall to harvest for salsa. And to tell you the truth, harvesting cherry tomatoes when it's 115 out is not fun at all. And worse than that, making salsa when it's hot, definitely not fun. So I will enjoy it much more come fall. Until then, I still do enjoy snacking on these, especially the sun golds. Next to the tomatoes, I've got some corn growing. Got some glass gem corn, which is multicolored. I don't know if any of it's actually going to produce, but we shall see. Next to the glass gem, I've got some sweet corn, and it's actually starting to tassel. Well, several of them are, so, I have hopes. What's it called? Okay, had to look it up. Stoll's Evergreen. I used to have great success growing corn, but the last few years, not so much, so we shall see. Now, next to this pepper bed that's not producing any peppers yet, I have my mother thyme plant, and what else? Oh, my lime tree, which there are a lot of limes on, I'm happy to see. Going to transplant that into a bigger container or the ground in the fall, not sure yet. My lemon tree that was just what looked like dying sticks back in the spring, still looking fabulous. All the leaves look good. It's just done really well coming back to life. Purple coneflower volunteers abound on the property, which is lovely. And this container's deceptive because these leaves coming out of it are butternut, but they're not actually coming from this container. They're coming, if you follow that vine up here, they're coming from these plants. There's 2 of them in here, butternuts, and they've just spread through the container. This container actually has some kind of squash in it, and I can't for the life of me remember which one it is, so we'll just have to wait and see. And then I planted some leftover tomatillos that I didn't know if they would even come to anything, but they are growing and starting to blossom. And then in this bed I have some more Kakai pumpkin, which, this one is doing well, and it has a pumpkin growing there, but most of them aren't doing as well, so I may take out these scrawny ones here and plant something different along this side and just leave those there. Probably what I'm going to do. Got some blackberry bushes here. Definitely going to transplant these in the fall. I did get some good blackberries off of them this year, but they didn't really like this location. They need a little more afternoon sun. My smoke tree, smoke bush, whatever, it's doing pretty well. And my grapefruit, which the leaves have struggled somewhat, although the new growth looks nice. And I have several, I think 6 big grapefruits growing. Yeah, again, the new growth looks good. And I have a lot of that new growth, so I'm not too worried about the old ugly looking growth. Little nectarine tree right here next to the cherry tomatoes. And a new cherry tree planted right here on the corner next to these very tall sunflowers. And I suppose, I could cut them down, but because I didn't, the lower blossoms are starting to open. You probably can't tell how gorgeous these are because of the light and because they're so dark. But they are, and the bees continue to love them. I actually find even spent sunflowers to be very attractive. And at the base of this sunflower that I had to tie up, it was so heavy, I have some cucumber plants just coming up. And here I'm doing an experiment of sorts. I have some watermelon coming up in the ground right here. I think I'm going to move that container a little bit so they get more sun, because watermelon love the sun. Little fig tree cutting doing well there. One of my mini kumquat trees. And sending out lots of new growth. So I moved my blood oranges over here because they started suddenly dropping leaves. Like overnight they dropped, especially this one, so many leaves. Leaves that look great. They just all fell off the plant, and I thought, oh, they're not used to this hot weather. They're from Sacramento area. It's about 20 degrees cooler there, I think. But once those leaves dropped, you can see that, can you see this?
lots and lots of new growth has come on since then. So I'm not worried about this tree either. And the other blood orange, it did fine. It didn't lose nearly as many leaves. Another kumquat tree. This one has sent out a ton of blossoms recently, so I expect to see a lot of kumquats on here very soon. Yeah, so this back area has quite a conglomeration of plants. Lots and lots of purple tree kale growing along the fence line, which is starting to look so lovely. This is probably because this back side here of the garden, the west side, by being by the back fence, it is getting more and more shade as the days are starting to slowly shorten. And, well, purple tree kale likes that. So, yeah, I have a bunch of it growing back here, as well as dinosaur kale. And along with purple tree kale, I have various other plants like blueberries, olive trees, flowers. Hey, I need to put something in that empty pot. Love the shade of this salvia. It's such a deep violet. And next to it, one of my many fig trees that I grow from cuttings. I've already harvested probably 15 figs from it this year. This is a brown turkey. I have lots of varieties though. Next to the figs, I've got my bed with green onions, and I planted some zucchini in it. It has some raspberries, but they really struggled in this spot this year, so I'm going to be moving them next year. But the walking onions along the border have come back nicely after me cutting them back severely, as I do every early summer, and taking the bulbils and planting them elsewhere. One of my lemon trees doing pretty well. I've been moving them around. That's the benefit of having them in containers. Trying to find, the perfect spot for them that will let them produce new growth as well as fruit and not burn off all their leaves in this hot weather we have. I don't really have to worry about my mini olive trees from burning because they love this dry, hot Mediterranean climate. All these olive trees I have in containers are from seedlings that I dug up around the property, volunteers from my over 120-year-old olive orchard, which I have 100 big trees of those. So yeah, little seedlings pop up everywhere. I dig them up when I see them and put them in containers because, well, if I ever move, I want to have plenty of olive trees to take with me because I love olive trees. Olive leaf tea is one of the absolute best teas you can drink for your health. And, well, if I'm going to be Olive City Oasis wherever I go in life and whatever I do, I have to have some olive trees. Here I've got some of my rhubarb, and it is still doing very well in this spot where it gets morning shade and filtered sun in the afternoon. It's right next to my southern olive orchard. My big olive orchard is divided in half. In the southern side, the chickens have the run of, and the northern side, the sheep have the run of. But here in this spot, the rhubarb's doing very well. In fact, I think I'm going to take another harvest. Normally, you do not harvest rhubarb this late in the summer. Generally, you stop in May or at least by June. But that's in other areas. Here, I take it into August sometimes, usually just July, but definitely doing this. And then I'll let it grow back again and put all its energy into its roots for, next year. The thing is that I have a long season. You couldn't do that in a place with a shorter season. Now on this bed I have a little more rhubarb growing over there, but I am going to transplant it right there come fall. Now what about this? Took me a while, kind of ashamed to say, to figure out what it was. I actually only figured it out when it started blooming. And that's because I've never grown this. This is amaranth. Now, I've grown amaranth, but I grow the red amaranth. This is a green amaranth, which I have never, ever grown. So I guess when they reseed themselves, which they have plenty of time, they usually go true because 99% of the time they have, right? If I've had 100 plants volunteer from amaranth, 99 of them have been red. But this one,
It's definitely green. I mean, you can't go wrong with amaranth. It's so pretty and so sturdy. It is like a plant you barely need to do anything to at all. Once in a great while, water it, even here in this hot, dry place, and it does fine. And it's kind of nicely shading the rhubarb there and the little transplant berry plants I've put in here. I think that one was a fall gold raspberry. This one is also a raspberry. And this one, where the amaranth has chosen to come up, is a boysenberry. Lots of pretty purple petunias next to some mums that are going to start blooming soon. And here we've got lemongrass. Lemongrass is wonderful for tea. I also just like the structure of this plant, very resilient. I divided it in the fall. And right over here, got some more lemongrass growing. Now this berry, I was getting so frustrated with it when it was fruiting, even though the fruits tasted good. It was so thorny. I was like, why did I buy this thorny plant? I need to get rid of this. And then I went and looked at what it was. And it's a tayberry. Well, it took me a lot of time to find that plant over here. And I really do want it to grow well. I need to plant it when I know where I want it on something it can vine up over. And I guess I just had to deal with the thorns because I wanted a tayberry. I just didn't realize it had so many thorns. Got mint coming up on the ground there. It's coming from over here. I do love this mint. It smells beautiful. Makes excellent tea. Yep. Spearmint. My favorite mint, though, is chocolate mint, which I have growing in this water fountain that I don't currently have running. It is workable, but I don't run it, full time. Mostly I just forget to turn it on. But this chocolate mint, I need to get it out of here and plant it in a pot. Yeah. And next to the duck fence, I've got a loquat tree and another fig tree. And more flowers and green onions. Alyssum petunias. My corkscrew willow tree. It's young, but it is doing great. It struggled in the heat in July, the first part of July, and it lost some leaves, which is why it looks a little sparse. But it sent out lots of new growth now, and it's going to make it. Wherever you are in the world, whatever your weather's like, I hope you have an amazing week, and I hope you remember you can create the garden, the orchard, the life that you want. So why not start right now?